On September 2nd, 2015, a man parks his car in the underground garage of his apartment complex. The garage is relatively empty at this time of day, with only a few other cars. His neighbor has just driven in front of him. But suddenly, there is a bang, and immediately after that, a scream. A scream that sounds so terrible that the man first thinks it could only come from an animal. Then a few tires screech, and a black Jeep backs out of the garage. On the concrete floor lies a woman. She is wealthy, successful, and dead. But who could have hated Kendra Hatcher enough to kill her? And why was she murdered when she was so generous and well known for her charity work? Kendra Hatcher may have what would be considered the perfect resume. She comes from a middle-class small town in Illinois. In high school, she was captain of the cheerleading squad and played volleyball. In her free time, she devoted herself to studying her Bible, went on missionary trips with her church, and got involved in church youth work. After graduating from high school at the top of her class, she studies Spanish and biochemistry. After that, Kendra attends college again. This time, she wants to study medicine. Fast forward to 2015. Kendra is 35 years old and works as a dentist. Thanks to her job, she can afford a chic apartment in the best neighborhood in Dallas. Kendra loves her job as a dentist and is proud of her apartment. The apartment complex boasts its own saltwater pool, gym, and cafe, as well as a lobby with a concierge. You can't get much more elegant than that in the heart of Dallas, a city of over 1 million people. And in the summer of 2015, love entered the picture to add to her professional happiness. Kendra met Ricardo Paniagua, who is 3 years older than she is. He's called Ricky by friends and family. Ricky is quite successful in his job. He is a dermatologist by training. However, he does not work in this job. Instead, he is an assistant professor at the University of Texas Southwestern. Ricky is well liked by both students and colleagues. He is professionally competent, smart, and easygoing. All in all, Ricky is probably the perfect match for Kendra. The two are already dreaming of their wedding and want to start saving for the big day soon. But Kendra and Ricky's romance won't even survive the summer, because one day someone enters Kendra's garage and shoots her in the head. It is September 2nd, 2015. Ricky and Kendra have known each other for a few months. At this point, Ricky is in Cancun, Mexico. The next day, Kendra wants to fly out to be with him and enjoy a short vacation in the South together. As mentioned at the beginning, Kendra lives in a fairly affluent neighborhood. This is home to the upper class of Dallas. And the fact that a woman was simply shot dead in the middle of her garage has understandably unsettled the population, especially since no one can really explain what the motive is for the brutal murder of Kendra Hatcher. But the police quickly come up with a theory. Kendra's handbag has disappeared since her murder. Accordingly, it seems likely that this was a robbery gone wrong, at least at first glance. On closer inspection, however, the whole thing seems strange. Kendra was shot in the back of the head. So, logically, her killer attacked her from behind. And completely unexpectedly, with a shot in the back. On closer inspection, however, the whole thing seems strange. Kendra was shot in the back of the head, so her killer attacked her from behind, obviously. And completely unexpectedly. By shooting her in the back of the head, the perpetrator wanted to make sure that Kendra was definitely dead. And all this for a handbag and its contents? There are still some inhibitions between a theft and a murder. If a thief had wanted to overpower Kendra, a single blow would have been enough, or a shot in the arm or something similar. The thief didn't have to become a murderer to get the handbag. This suggests that this is not really about Kendra's bag at all, but about her herself. So the police are looking into Kendra's private life for clues. And the only thing that has recently changed, as you may have already guessed, is her relationship with Ricky. However, he cannot be the murderer of his girlfriend. At the time of the crime, he was hundreds of kilometers away in Cancun. And just like his murdered partner, Ricky is successful, has a large circle of friends, and is popular. And that's exactly the crux of the matter. Because with one particular person, Ricky seems to be a bit too popular. Ricky is proud of the fact that he is an empathetic and relaxed guy. You can always talk to him as an equal, as a stranger, as a student, as a patient, or if you are his ex-girlfriend. Before Kendra, Ricky was in a relationship with a woman named Brenda Delgado for 2.5 years. The two parted on good terms. Just because a relationship didn't work out doesn't mean you can't still get along. Ricky and Brenda remained friends. They were such good friends that Ricky would occasionally tell Brenda about his dating life. And when he met Kendra, a dentist, in the spring of 2015, he was smitten. Brenda was devastated by the news. It's not easy for everyone to see their ex find new love. And it doesn't take long for the police to realize that Brenda is more than just a little frustrated. We'll talk about her behavior in a moment, but it's so obvious that the police can't rule out the possibility that Ricky's ex is the key to Kendra Hatcher's murder. But Ricky, of all people, denies it. There's no way Brenda could ever hurt anyone, even if she might have been a little jealous of him and Kendra. And Brenda's family also can't imagine her being involved in something like that. Her mother's reasoning: Brenda is pretty and Christian. There's no way she could really order a murder. But could it not be that Brenda's family is seriously mistaken and that there is something much deeper behind the matter? Ricky and Brenda broke up in July 2014, and she was devastated. Her future with Ricky was within reach. Brenda was even once pregnant with Ricky's child. They both decided to have an abortion because the time was just not right. Brenda was still in college at the time and had 2 jobs. Although she knew that the abortion was the right decision for her, the whole thing took a toll on Brenda. After the abortion, Brenda threw herself even more into her work. She even started a weekend job to help Ricky buy an apartment. Ricky gave her a ring at that point. Not really an engagement ring, but a promise ring. A ring as a promise that an engagement ring would follow at some point. Instead of a proposal, Brenda received a breakup in 2014, and that apparently sent her into a severe downward spiral. At the end of 2014, Ricky and Brenda got back together for a few months. But in February 2015, Ricky broke up with Brenda for the second and last time. And shortly thereafter, he met Kendra Hatcher. What neither Ricky nor his new girlfriend Kendra suspected was how deeply Brenda was immersed in her grief at the time. Brenda doesn't live too far from Ricky. Of course, that doesn't change after the breakup. So Ricky isn't at all surprised that he and his ex still often run into each other. On the contrary, he even finds it quite nice. He runs into Brenda almost every week on his jogging route. Sometimes they meet in the restaurant or the supermarket. It's just part of life when you live in the same neighborhood, thinks Ricky. However, the matter goes much deeper. Not only does Brenda know where her ex-boyfriend goes jogging, where he eats and shops, she also has access to his email accounts, his cloud, and his cell phone location. And she makes very active use of this access to see what Ricky is doing. Perhaps it's just curiosity at first. You might want to keep an eye on your ex-partner, see what's going on with them. But soon, Brenda's curiosity develops into an obsession that follows its own system. Brenda keeps a close eye on all of Ricky's data at all times. And so, of course, she also finds out about Kendra. Soon, a pathological jealousy develops. Even when Brenda goes on dates, She talks incessantly about her ex and his new girlfriend. Once, she even asks a date to drive her to Kendra's address, under the pretext of wanting to bring something to a friend. Brenda's date waits in the car and can only see Brenda creeping around an apartment and peeking through the window. Kendra's apartment, which Brenda zeroes in on more and more. Kendra and Ricky share quite a few photos on social media. Brenda sees photos of the newly in love couple on vacation, in fancy resorts, and obviously more than happy. Brenda sees everything she never had with Ricky, even though she was with him for 2.5 years, was pregnant with his child, and he gave her a promise ring. At some point, Brenda's environment finds all the talk quite unpleasant. Every conversation seems to be only about her ex Ricky and his new girlfriend. Brenda even suggests to 1 or 2 friends that they could maybe threaten Kendra or Ricky a little, or even hurt them. In return, Brenda offers money. Nobody around her agrees, but nobody takes her seriously either. They dismiss it as drunken talk, as a broken heart that may be getting the better of her. But Brenda finds someone who not only listens to her desire to hurt Kendra and Ricky, but will even fulfill it. Crystal Cortez is a new acquaintance of Brenda's. Crystal is a single mother with a 6-year-old son. She lives with him in a tough neighborhood and works 2 jobs. She earns just $11 an hour, so she urgently needs money. And when Brenda offers her $500 to help murder Kendra Hatcher, Crystal agrees. And Crystal, in turn, knows exactly the kind of people she needs for the job from her shady neighborhood. Christopher Love is a buddy of Crystal's, and, like her, he desperately needs money to start a business. He doesn't want to start a startup or open a store, though, but to launch a sex worker ring. Nevertheless, he needs money. And Brenda needs someone to get rid of Kendra Hatcher. Who could be better suited for the job than Christopher, who has an AK-47 tattooed on his back? So Brenda makes a deal with Crystal and Christopher. Christopher is to receive a total of $3,000 to kill Kendra. Crystal is to receive $500 for putting Brenda in touch with Christopher. The 3 of them organize everything for September 2nd. An alibi for Brenda, who is meeting a friend to study, an escape car for Crystal and Christopher, and a weapon. Crystal drives the getaway car that day. She and Christopher follow Kendra from the doctor's office to the underground parking garage. When Kendra gets out of her car, Christopher shoots her suddenly in the back of the head. His snatching of her handbag is more of an impulsive reaction. As we know, he urgently needs startup capital for his shady business, so he seizes his chance here in cold blood. But the 3 of them's ingenious plan was not as ingenious as they thought. The 3 of them are caught mainly because of the getaway car. They probably didn't consider that the underground car park has a surveillance camera. The friend from whom Brenda borrowed the car for the crime recognizes his car on the news. The camera footage is used to help find the thieves. The boyfriend calls Brenda immediately to ask what it is all about. Brenda can't think of a quick excuse and says her friend Crystal had the car the whole day. The friend doesn't waste any time and goes to the police with this information. All 3 try to talk their way out of it with tall tales, but are convicted. The circumstantial evidence is simply too overwhelming. It takes a few days, but the messages and chat logs between the 3 are enough for an arrest warrant. Crystal and Christopher are arrested. However, Brenda has already fled to Mexico. She even ends up on the FBI's most wanted list and is on the run for more than half a year. It is not until March 2016 that the Mexican authorities are able to arrest Brenda and extradite her to the United States. Ultimately, a trial is possible mainly because of a comprehensive statement from Crystal. She confessed and testified against Christopher and Brenda. In return, she received a 35-year prison sentence, and after 15 years, she can apply for parole. Christopher, on the other hand, who shot and robbed Kendra, received the death penalty. He is currently on death row in a Texas prison. Brenda herself only avoids the death penalty because she fled to Mexico after the crime. She also has Mexican citizenship. and Mexico does not extradite people to countries where they face the death penalty. Instead, she received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. With her jealousy, Brenda destroyed many lives. Her own, that of Christopher, of Crystal, who has a young son, and of her ex, Ricky. And of course, especially that of Kendra Hatcher, who was only 35 years old. The case surrounding Kendra Hatcher is truly outrageous. We've often had cases of murder out of jealousy here at Insolito, but this contract killing is a completely different matter. Brenda found not just one, but two people who were immediately willing to murder Kendra for her. And that despite neither Christopher nor Crystal even knowing Kendra. And all for a few dollars. Feel free to write me your thoughts on the case in the comments. And do you know of any cases that are similar to this one? Feel free to write me about those in the comments as well. By the way, you also support the channel because any interaction increases the likelihood that the video will be suggested to people who have not yet subscribed to Insolito. Otherwise, there is not much more to say. I wish you a good morning, noon, or evening, or whenever you watch the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao guys.